Even if we were just to think of it from where does struggle actually come from, I would argue that oftentimes it's the difference between how much you care about something and the results you have in the thing that you care about.
We can achieve, within reason, almost anything we want in life, but not everything all at once. And if you can just understand that and dial in on your 10s out of 10 when it comes to your core values and make sure you're honoring those first, I think you're going to be much more fulfilled.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1513, an open conversation about heartbreak. Today, for episode number 1514, don't kid yourself about what you care about. I have not done nearly as many coaching sessions as you, and I haven't done nearly as many peak performance, we'll just say self-improvement coaching calls as you, because now the majority of my coaching calls are about podcasting. But there have been three key conversations that I have had with clients over the last 7 years that really stick out as applicable, tough word, for what we were talking about today. The through line of all those conversations were, hey, I know when we started working together, you mentioned that you wanted this result. Do you also value the things that come with that? Now, I know we talk about that often, but let me clarify. Somebody wanted to have some sort of medical practice, and I said, well, one of the things you value is time freedom and movement freedom. You want to be able to go different places. You want to be able to travel. You don't necessarily want to be stuck to a place. You're going to have to go to school for many years if you want to get into this medical practice. Knowing that now with a higher level of awareness, do you still want the result? Do you still care about that at the level that you thought? And this person said no. They completely pivoted their life after that. I had another conversation a couple years ago with somebody, same kind of thing. I really want this result. Okay, cool. Just a heads up, based on my awareness, which isn't 10 out of 10 high, but it's higher than yours at this given moment, you're going to have to give up a lot of what you care about in the interim of getting what you think you care about eventually. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give up maybe some of the things you care about when it comes to family, some of the things that you care about when it comes to certainty, in order to get this result that you think you want? Same answer. Honestly, no, with that new level of awareness, I'm going to do something different. Okay, awesome. That's kind of what we're talking about today. If you don't really care about something, or in order to care about one thing, it connects or affects things that you really care about in other ways, it's going to be really hard to accomplish that. So if you don't care about podcasting, you're not going to do a podcast. It just wouldn't make sense. If you don't care about reading or getting better, you're probably not going to have a lot of books. You're not going to have the necessity to learn. So that's what we're talking about today. Don't kid yourself about what you care about.
Another thing that just came to me when we were talking about this,
excuse me,
and I didn't intend on this because this is a topic that Kevin and I masterminded about, and it was a conversation that I had with a client last week. But I think a lot of people love the idea of something more than they love the actual thing. And I think it gets us in trouble. Like, do you like the idea of being a doctor more than the actual process of becoming a doctor? That kind of thing. And again, that's I just chose doctor, but it could be lawyer, it could be business owner, whatever. A lot of people love the idea of being a business owner.
It's sexy. Kev, it's very sexy to say.
Okay, before you were a business owner,
yeah,
I really want to do this, and then I'll tell my story. But I want to ask you, coming up on, so 2024 will be our 7th year in business. And in hindsight, we didn't know many things. We've learned a lot. When I decided I wanted to be a business owner and I left corporate, I think I had a very strong understanding of what that would mean and what that would be. In hindsight, I don't think that you had as much clarity.
We'll give that away.
You should see Kevin's face on YouTube right now. We'll give you that idea. I want to ask you a simple question, which is, and again, for the listeners, I want you thinking when he answers this from the frame of what I love the idea of being a business owner more than actually being a business owner. Or I love the idea of being a doctor more than actually being a doctor. Or I love the idea of being a podcaster more than actually being a podcaster. So think of that when he's talking. So my question for you, Kev, is what was the idea of a business owner? Like, articulate what you honestly thought it was prior to actually being one.
I didn't have very much of an outline at all because I didn't really know any business owners. I assumed you got to make your own schedule, you got to do what you want. That was kind of it. I didn't start this because I thought it would be cool. Really, I started this because I was so miserable in my life. That's really why I started.
Which, by the way, if you listen to the previous episode, Kevin articulates where he was prior to starting this.
Yes,
which
and believe it or not,
may or may not have had some giggles with.
It actually got worse after all that. It got better, but it got worse at the same time. Yeah, I didn't really have any understanding. I didn't really have any expectations. I cared about trying to get away from where I was. And I was just so miserable. I think really what sold it was like, you can do your own thing. Okay, that's a cool layer to understand. I'm going to be able to do my own thing? Yeah, okay. Here's the other thing. Right before I ended up leaving my job, you and I started spending a lot more time together. So I remember you and I would, on days that I didn't have to work, you and I would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. And then we would hang out. And I was like, if I could do this, if this is what being a business owner would be like, I'm in. This is awesome. But that was it. It's like, this would be pretty cool. So that was my awareness, very low.
All right. So let's say we're talking to that, Kev.
Yeah.
Remember, that's the idea Kevin had about being a business owner, which in hindsight is no idea. Just joking.
No, it's true.
But I would say it's a low awareness. Yeah. And again, that's life. So it is what it is. The idea of being a father. Super pumped. Being a father is going to be way more different.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I know that it is. That's knowing you don't know. Super important. Okay, now, what is true now, having been a business owner for the last 6 years, coming up on 7 years? What is true now? What would you tell that, Kevin?
It's a trade-off. Yes, you might not enjoy what you're doing, but you have certainty of what you're doing, at least with a job. Like, I had certainty of what I was doing to a degree, and certainty of how much money was going to come in, and certainty of the longevity and how safe I was at my career. But it's just, it's just a lot more pressure. It's a lot of stress. There's a lot of, it's real. It's the realest thing in the world when you got to figure out how to get a client to pay the bills, or at this point, I believe we have a 20-person team, and that's a whole, leadership is a challenge, and trying to figure out how to communicate effectively, and yes, it's hard. It's very, 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 very challenging. It's probably worse than you think. It's probably better than you think, and it's also probably worse than you think. Mm-hmm. Better than you think from the perspective
But no matter what, it's different than you think.
It's got to be different than you think. It has to be different than you think. Better than you think from the perspective of, or better than I thought, not you, whether you're watching or listening. Better for me from the perspective of, if I don't get a good night's sleep, I can sleep until 10 a.m. because my first call is not till 11. Awesome. Great. Worse, sometimes we get a bunch of new clients at once, and I'm up at 5 a.m. on a Sunday doing work to make sure everything goes smoothly. But you can't really know either of those in the beginning, and then it becomes a conversation of, well, even deeper. Do you care more about sleeping in on Sunday or having your own thing? I would rather get up every Sunday at 5 a.m. for the rest of my life than go back to my old job. I'm okay with that. I actually am excited to do that most of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes I don't want to do that. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question. I just kind of started rambling.
Well, to bring this back to the original point, the idea of being a business owner versus being a business owner, I was on the phone with a client, and this client, I track metrics. Everyone who coaches with me knows that, and a lot of our listeners, I talk a lot about that. Habit tracking, metrics, meaningful moves, that kind of thing. Big on numbers. And we do these progress reports, and every other week I crunch his numbers and I see, okay, you're crushing. Awesome. He's crushing it. But there's one metric, one or two, typically, where it's like, ooh, you're not exactly winning in that arena. And that's not uncommon. Very few people can win in every arena every time. It's just not real, honestly. Yeah, even me. No, not real.
Hello, my name is Eddie Pinero. I'm the founder of Your World Within, and I wanted to take a second and just express how valuable working with Alan has been. His ability to help me create clarity and maintain focus on my big picture goals has been huge. You know, he's been a huge asset with the roadmap as well. The day-to-day things, the little things that we sometimes overlook. I think anyone looking to, grow themselves, grow a business or both, would truly benefit from having Alan as an ally along the way. Again, great mind, but more importantly, solid dude.
So health, wealth, and love, typically two of them are doing well and one of them is lagging and or dying slowly. In this case, fitness was dying. So he had lost a ton of weight. He's been coaching me for years, and I think he's, 20 pounds down over the last couple of years. And now it's going back up. You can see the trend. You can see the graph, and it's like down, and then it's like, oh, interesting. This one's picking back up. And so I had this really honest conversation with him. I said, you're crushing it in everything. You're crushing tracking. This is awesome. This is the best you've ever been. And I always ask these questions at the beginning of calls. True, false, semi-true. You are the most fulfilled you've ever been. True. You are the most productive you've ever been. True. You are the strongest leader you've ever been. True. You're the most holistically well-developed you've ever been. True. You are the most dialed in fitness you've ever been. Ooh. It's like, semi-true. Right? And I already knew the answer. That's why I'm asking the question. But now you're aware. And I had this honest conversation. I said, listen, when you're out at a barbecue or you're at a Halloween party or you're with your family or you're with friends or you're with colleagues, does it bother you? Like, is fitness eating away at you? And he's like, no, not really. I said, okay, I'm not trying to compare, but I do think there's a lesson in this. When I'm not dialed in fitness, it bothers me to my core. It bothers me so much. I mean, if I go 3 days without weight training, it is just eating me alive. Now, here's the truth. My fitness is such a core value. I mean, I talk about being a prepubescent, high school, didn't hit puberty, all the athletes got all the love and attention. I felt super insignificant math nerd, math and science. I just love being fit. It's my favorite thing in the world. It's so important to me. It's 10 out of 10 important to me. I'm a lesser man when I'm not fulfilled in fitness. Even my relationship suffers when I'm not dialed in fitness. And he's like, I said, 0 to 10, how much do you care about being in extraordinary shape? He's like, I said, and be honest, I don't want the idea of it. I want the truth. He's like, probably like a 7. And I knew in that moment, I'm like, why are we even tracking this? You're fine. You're not, it's not like you're out of shape. Now, I'm not saying not to get better. I'm saying don't be afraid to coast in there. I said, now let's talk finance. He's like, dude, 12 out of 10. I said, listen, I already knew that. I'm your coach. I'm supposed to know what you value. Let's dial that in and let's get rid of some of this stuff. I don't need you doing sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, supplementation. You don't need to dial in like a professional athlete. I do, because I'm deeply unfulfilled when I don't. And so for the listeners, there's a lesson here. What are your core values? Are you honoring those core values? Because if you're not, you're most likely unfulfilled. And what happens is we fall in love with these ideas, these other things. Well, I would really love to be a fitness model. I would really love to be a bodybuilder. I would really love to, but you don't really know what that means. And you're certainly not willing to sacrifice as much as it's going to take to get there. So it's CPU leakage. It's like when you have too many tabs open on Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer. It's just taking consciousness and effort away, and you're just constantly, it's hitting your self-esteem. You're not on point. You're tracking something you shouldn't be tracking. We can achieve, within reason, almost anything we want in life, but not everything all at once. And if you can just understand that and dial in on your 10s out of 10 when it comes to your core values and make sure you're honoring those first, I think you're going to be much more fulfilled.
Even if we were just to think of it from where does struggle actually come from, I would argue that oftentimes it's the difference between how much you care about something and the results you have in the thing that you care about. So there's been many people I've had conversations with who say, I don't really care about money. And I always say, be very careful when you say that because you're most likely not going to create something you don't care about. If you don't care about money, I'm willing to bet you're probably not going to have an influx of money or an abundance of money. If you don't care about love, I wouldn't bet on you having an amazing, fulfilling relationship that maybe you deserve. Or if you don't care about fitness, you're most likely not going to get to the place where, I don't know, maybe I won't say that, but maybe you won't. Maybe you won't get to the place where you feel super comfortable in a bathing suit. I can't guarantee you will. Because either you change your perception or you change your behavior. If you change your perception, it's just, honestly, I don't really care that much about money. Okay, maybe you don't. Or you've convinced yourself, honestly, I don't really care that much about money, when in reality, maybe you have belief that you can't earn more money, or maybe you have a money block, or you have a negative relationship where first you say you don't care about it, and then you say, but honestly, I think I probably care about it more than I'm giving myself credit for. I need to change my behavior. Go ahead.
Or, and this is such a good topic. I knew I was going to adore this topic. You say you don't care about money, and maybe that's true, but you do care about freedom. And guess what money buys?
Yeah. Or charity.
You see? Right. You do care about charity. You do, see? And so you might not care about money itself, but what if you care about something that requires money? Like your husband or your wife or your aunt or your uncle or your parents or your whatever. Okay, I'll give you an example. I have one client who wants to take care of his parents as they get older. You might not care about money, but you care about that, and that's going to cost $200,000. And so you kind of have to understand yourself at these layers, and it's tough on a podcast to go this deep, but you might say, well, I don't have a core value of money. That's fine. But what are your core values, and what kind of money are you going to need to honor those? So, for example, Amelia and I, when we have children, we've talked about how we need to put ourselves in a financial position where we can actually be available to them, because it costs a lot of money for daycare. It costs a lot of money for a night nurse. It costs a lot of money to have a housekeeper so that we can spend quality time with our kids instead of these other things. And that's something we're grateful for, and we're earning that now in advance. And so if nothing else, my next level nugget is dial in your core values and try to get really clear on them. And then the second layer would be, what is going to be required of you in order to honor those?
And what you care about changes too. That's another, I mean, maybe not if it's necessarily a core value. I mean, obviously, I guess that can change too. But for a long time, I would always say I don't care about travel. I enjoy traveling more than I ever thought I did, more than I ever was willing to admit. Is it stressful? Yeah. Is it a pain in the butt when there's business stuff going on? Yeah, of course. But I went to New Jersey and Connecticut recently, which it's not a ton of travel, but it was like a 5-hour ride. And I enjoyed it. I loved checking into the Airbnb. I loved being away. I enjoy traveling. But for a long time, I would have told you that I didn't care about it, when in reality, it was the uncertainty around traveling, or the trauma I had around traveling in the past, or planes and airports. Yeah. So sometimes what we care about is hidden under the fears and insecurities and limiting beliefs that we haven't faced yet. And that's just another reason that self-improvement and personal development and self-awareness are so important.
Very last thing.
Yes.
Last thing would be, Kevin and I, a long time ago, we used to talk often about these 5 M's of motivation, and maybe we'll do an episode another time about them, but mastery/status was one of them. Mating/romance was one of them. Movement/freedom was one of them, which you referenced either last episode or this episode. The person who cared about movement and freedom but wanted to be, was it, an orthodontist or a dentist or something? Yeah. And what were the other ones?
You have materials, possessions, and then mission/purpose.
Okay. Materials, of course, I forget the materials one. Materials/money.
Possessions, I
think.
Yeah.
and then you have
Purpose.
mission
slash
slash
purpose.
purpose. Yeah. We have a PDF of this.
We haven't looked
so
at it in a minute. If
it's
you
been a
can't-
long time.
if you
Yeah,
can't
it's
tell.
been a while since we talked about this. If you
know.
want to email me, alan@nextleveluniverse.com. I do have a copy of it. I will send it to you if you're curious. Okay? But here's my point. I had a call with a client a long time ago. This is years ago, probably 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And she's like, oh, I don't really care about mating slash romance. Because I used to order them with my clients.
Yeah.
What's your order of importance? And they put mating slash romance last. Later on, I coached this person for years. We found out that that's the one she's actually the most fearful of. She's the most uncertain and fearful of that one. It's actually number one. And as she evolved, she eventually realized that. And so a lot of times what happens is we think we don't care about money, or we think we don't care about fitness, when in reality, we're just fearful and uncertain about it. So that's just another layer to remember when you're dialing in core values.
I had a practice for a long time where when I woke up in the morning, my most important one of those is probably materials slash possessions. And I
think it's materials slash money.
Is it materials slash money? Whatever it is. We'll just say it's money hypothetically.
Yep.
I would say on a scale of 0 to 10. Alan told me I can't say on a scale of 1 to 10 anymore because there's 0. And I said, I don't think so, man. And he pulled the numbers back and said I have to do it that way. So from now on, no, he didn't really.
If you were to draw it out,
0
like a
to
ruler?
1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. That's 10. So I guess
Thank you, brother.
I guess you're right on this. Also,
back
Alan
in my
told me
computer
something.
engineering days, zeros and ones. You always got to start with 0. It's like a computer programming thing. Go ahead.
Also, evidently, you can't fall down 7 times and get up 8. That's
Nope.
actually not.
You can only get up 7 times.
You
if
can only
fall
get up
down
7 times because you only fall down 7 times.
Yeah.
Could you be you fall down 7 times, stand up 8?
No.
No, same thing.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're joking. Man.
No, I was very serious there because I thought maybe the quote was wrong.
This is the sandwich thing.
Yeah, that's
with the spreadsheets. We're not going to get into it.
Yeah, no, you trust me. You do not want to know whether you're watching or listening. I used to wake up in the morning, and I would say on a scale of 0 to 10, how comfortable am I in this thing? So when it comes to money, how do I feel today? Based on what's in my bank account, for most of this, we are very, very scarce. And I used to do that for certainty too. We talked about, maybe we'll talk more about the basic human needs. Tony Robbins did a TED Talk on it. But one of them was certainty. I'm very certainty driven. When certainty is low, I am struggling. So maybe same idea for you. If what you care about is the thing you have the least of, you might not have much motivation because you might feel stuck. So I figured I would add that. Next Level Nation. If you haven't joined Next Level Nation yet, please do. A wonderful group of humans who are into self-improvement, into growth, into overcoming the ego, into having cool conversations like this. That is really what we get to do for a living. We get to have cool conversations, and obviously our Facebook group is the same way. So if you are looking for cool people to have cool conversations with, get to the next level with, grow with, evolve with, please join our Facebook group. Link will be in the show notes below.
We have our Next Level holiday event coming up, Next Level Hope Foundation holiday event with children of single parents. It is on December 10th. We already booked the YMCA, and it's going to be absolute mayhem in the best way. We're going to play all the sports, and we're going to get kids gifts. It's going to be a really fantastic event. Photography, there's going to be a backdrop. It's quite awesome. We did it last year, and it was just awesome. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite days of the year because I get to play basketball all day. It's awesome. So we have a GoFundMe that is not done yet, but it is coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. Kevin and I will be matching $500. So the community, what we're asking, our goal is $500 total from the community for this event, and we're going to be matching that, so it's going to be $1,000 total. Okay, and so that will be coming down the pipe. Please keep a sharp eye. I do not have a link for you yet, but it will be soon.
And usually what we do with that money goes to renting out the YMCA, getting food, getting snacks, getting refreshments. Alan usually gets some sort of Beanie Babies and or stuffed animals, and then we'll also get all the kids some sort of presents. So last year it was Frisbees and footballs and basketballs and soccer balls. Footballs, I don't know if I said that. This year I'm sure we'll probably do much of the same. So that is where all the money will go.
And to our amazing photographer as well.
Yes. Tomorrow.
Shout out to Melissa.
Tomorrow for episode number 1515, juggling short-term and long term. I was going to put balancing short term and long term, but I don't really know, as you've heard us say many times, balance. I don't really know if I think balance is a thing. I think it's a juggling act. Life is a juggling act because right now I'm juggling speaking on these microphones with all the rest of the things going on in life. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Honor those core values. Next Level Nation.